welcome back to another beading video from EurekaCrystalBeads.com. What we're going to be making today is a really great beginner project for making a gorgeous chain and Swarovski crystal necklace. But before I get started, just a reminder to check out the rest of our channel, and if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. So what I have here, to go over my materials first, is I have some chain here. This is a really fun antiqued silver chain, which I actually really love using oxidized or antiqued chains with crystal, because that sort of more subdued matte finish really helps the sparkle of the crystal show up so much. So I really like that, that contrast. I also have some eye pins here. I have a clasp, and I have some crystals. I have two 4mm crystals in light sapphire, and I have five 8mm crystals here in sapphire AB. And one of the things I really like about this necklace is it's not only easy, but it's really lightweight and delicate. And so something really easy like a magnetic clasp is going to be perfect for it. And actually, this is a really surprisingly strong magnetic clasp, so it's super easy to get on and off. So that 16 inches, you have to keep in mind that you will add some length in with the beadwork that we're adding. So we will end up with something that's longer than 16 inches. So we're going to start by adding in the front center of the necklace. And if you've never used eye pins before, eye pins are great because they're pretty strong and there's no wrapping involved. So it's going to be a nice, quick, great beginner project. So what I'm going to start by doing is using my chain nose pliers here, and chain nose are flat inside and smooth, and when you look at them closed, they also taper to a point. That's a really important distinction from flat nose pliers, which come to a square tip. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the loop here, and I'm going to swivel my loop open to the side. So you can see that there, it's swiveled to the side. You never want to open loops like this, because down here will eventually get weak and break. You always want to swivel like that. So I'm going to take my chain, I'm going to just get it right onto my eye pin there, and I'm just going to swivel it back shut. And because this is a pretty thin, delicate chain, you really want to make sure that that loop is shut nice and tight, because if it's open even a little bit, this chain could theoretically just pop right off. So we want it to stay on there nice and secure. So I'm going to take my crystal here. Now for the other side, I'm going to hold my crystal and just bend the wire out with my finger. Now if you don't want to use just your finger to do that, or if your bead was a bit smaller so you didn't have as much to hold on to, you can make that bend with your chain nose pliers. Just make sure that your chain nose pliers are not touching your crystal, because if you go to bend with your pliers now, you'll actually crack the top of the crystal. So just make sure that you go up just a hair and then make your bend. And ideally we don't want our bead to be able to wiggle up and down too much, because we want it to be staying securely in between those two loops. So now I'm going to use my cutter, and I'm going to cut off about half of that length there. Okay. Now I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and if you're not familiar with round nose pliers, they're kind of like two ice cream cones. There's no flat edges, and they taper to a point. And I'm going to grab my loop here, just like this, and I'm going to roll my loop forward. Just like that. You figured out? Okay. Okay, so we have our loop here, and now we're going to go ahead and do the next one. I'm going to go ahead and open that loop, swiveling it open rather. Hook it right onto the previous link, and swiveling it shut. Stick my crystal on there. And this time I'll show you with the pliers. So again, I'm just going to go up just a hair, and then I'll make that bend. Cut off about half of the length, and then roll my next loop. Oops. And don't be afraid to turn it however you need to be able to see that loop forming, just so you can make sure that you're forming a loop that's a good shape and that it's going to be nice and closed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the rest of my crystals on here, and I'll see you back in a minute. Alright, so I have my last eye pin here, and I'm about to put on my final crystal for the front. So this is going to pull the whole necklace together. So I've just continued doing exactly what I showed you in the first part of the video. And when I roll this last loop closed, I'm going to close it all the way so that way it's a fully formed, properly formed loop, and then I'm going to swivel it open and then get my chain on there. Just like that. And then we're going to swivel this back shut. Again, make sure that it's closed nice and tight. So this is the front of our necklace here. Really pretty, really simple. And now for the back. So I'm going to want to make a cut in the back of my chain. And to get it nice and lined up, I'm just going to lay this here so that way both of the ends are lined up. And then I'm just going to move this forward so you can see on the camera. And then right in the center here is where I'm going to make my cut. Just like that. Now, this particular clasp doesn't, the loops on it don't open up, which is actually great because it's nice and secure. So we're going to end up using some eye pins with some little accent crystals at the back. Now, one of the things that I always find super important, right after the importance level of the front is the importance level of the back. Most people always want to see how the clasp area looks, not only because of how it's going to function, but because, you know, someone who has shorter hair or wears their hair up, you know, you want the back to look pretty too. So I've gone ahead and swiveled open an eye pin here, and I stuck on my chain. I'm going to swivel that shut. Get my little crystal on here. And in this particular case, it's really going to be important to make that bend with the tool because there's really not going to be as much to hold on to here. And it is a pretty thick eye pin, which is great because those loops are really going to stay shut nicely. Cut off my wire here. Roll my loop. Now that my loop is formed, I'm going to go ahead and swivel it open. Get that clasp on there. And then swivel it back shut. And you will notice that my pliers want to keep sticking to the tool. That can make it a little tricky, but no big deal. All right, and then lastly for the other side, swivel my loop open on my eye pin. Chain on there, close it up, get my crystal on there. Remember, you hold it just a hair above where the crystal is, because otherwise you can crack that crystal, and we don't want that to happen. I'll roll my loop. Okay. Swivel that little guy open, get my clasp on the other side, and then make sure it's nice and securely shut. So here we have our finished product here. So we have that great little station in the front, and now some variations for this. You could always make the center bead a little bit different or a little bit larger. You could always use some Swarovski crystal pendants that are drilled across the top, and that would look lovely and would definitely add a little bit more of a sparkly nighttime look to it. You could also make this a really fun eclectic necklace and use a different crystal for each station. Whether you stay within a color family or you make it totally wild and fun and do all different colors, it's a great summer necklace. And then the back, nice and easy with that magnetic clasp. And again, it's a really particularly strong magnetic clasp for one so dainty and tiny. So size-wise, it looks really great with the necklace. It's not too heavy, it's not going to pull forward, but then it's also super easy to put on. All right, so I hope you guys loved this. I'll see you next time.